Hey guys, I'm Naya and welcome back to the channel. For today's video, I decided to go over a couple decks that do not include Brave because I think that the current metagame has been so oversaturated with Brave or Adventure, I should say, the engine being included in almost every single deck possible in the archetypes that have previously existed without Brave and are now including it. So I figured why not just pinpoint a couple decks and tell you why they are good choices if you don't have Brave at the moment. So the first one we need to cover would definitely be Dragon Link, and I realize that a version is seen to be played with the inclusion of Brave, and we will not be covering that, of course. You can check all of that out, and if you have Brave, you can run it in Dragon Link because it does perform well. However, Dragon Link has been an incredibly powerful deck for a couple years now, and it's always somehow evolved because the ban lists always hit things when it comes to the Dragon Link. Well, I cannot say archetype, just the Dragon Link deck, and anything dragon related, things came back from the ban list. And with the inclusion of Chaos Ruler and also the new zombie vampire lord, I wanted to say, I think that was like the OCG translation, doesn't matter. The zombie vampire is an incredibly powerful card, especially in tandem with Chaos Ruler. You can mill so many cards to further extend your plays and your combos. Overall, Dragon Link, just when it comes to the fact that you actually can get disrupted so many times and still end on at least seals and also tidying if you're still including that package, this just means a lot because a bounce has always been a great disruption when it comes to the metagame in particular. Another thing to note would be that it teaches you a lot. So if you choose to play Dragon Link, it doesn't mean that you necessarily need to be a great player to pick it up. However, you will become a better player as you're piloting it because it does teach you a whole lot. Also, another important thing to note would be that it has the space to include a lot of hand traps, and in this particular metagame, we need to have all of that space so we can combat all of the other combo decks. So Dragon Link, a powerful combo deck, teaches you a lot, space for hand traps, and utilizes a lot of awesome boss monsters. The next one that needs to be mentioned for sure, and I had no idea I was going to be saying that. If you asked me like a year back, I would probably laugh at you, but it's going to be DDD. And I have a history of just not liking DDD for not any particular reason, I just wasn't a fan. But somehow I'm intrigued by it. It's honestly not a bad combo deck with the support that it got because it has always had sort of a way of going into all of these different types of summoning mechanics, and it just did a lot. But it was lacking that little something special, and with the new support, I think this boosted the archetype to lengths that were sort of unimaginable. However, I need to point out that it's a very hard deck to pilot. So if you were a DDD pilot beforehand, dope for you, you know, just you go, you play DDD, it's all good. If you're picking it up, similarly to Dragon Link, it's going to teach you a lot, and with the new support, it can actually hang with all of these decks because based and things like that. Also sometimes Sword Soul if players are not that good and sort of don't manage their resources properly. And it's like that with every single deck, but I'm only pointing these decks out to say that they're sort of like a mashup of random engines and archetypes, and they don't really have awesome follow-up, but when it comes to DDD, all it has is follow-up and the grind game. So it's not like the best deck of the format, but it's for sure up there if you want to pick up something that doesn't run Brave, that you can include your engine, hand traps, and combat the meta that way. Now a couple words about Alistair, because IDS was hit just a tiny bit with Nadir Servant going to 2, but it's still a solid deck. Like, I realize we're all a bit bored of it, but if you still want to pick it up, it actually did quite well at a case tournament happened, I think a couple days ago, I'm pretty sure, and a couple people actually topped with IDS, which is always cool to see, you know, decks that maybe sort of fall out of favor, and then they still do well, because if you still have these kinds of archetypes lying around, if you just want to pick this up again, doesn't run Brave, you can run the Window Turbo, you can run everything, basically nothing really changed much, so it's still a good choice. And it's pretty much basic, you know, Alistair, and then the Nadir servant stuff, so the Dogmatica stuff and the Shadal stuff going into Winda. You have Punishment, you have Hand Traps, you have Small World as like a tie-in among all of these different engines. And it's a solid deck, honestly. Another one that wasn't, I guess, the best one when it came out would be Flunderies. So I realize it has a couple problems. It struggles with being disrupted on the normal summon. It doesn't exactly make huge boards or OTKs. However, it can play D-Shifter, and in the meta that we're currently in, that's honestly huge. And also ending on Statue, Empen, having D-Shifter, and the Book of Moon and their new support to dodge things like Impermanence, Veiler on the normal summon and things like that, it actually boosted the deck up quite a bit. And as mentioned before, D-Shifter, Statue, the Barrier Statue, the Wind Barrier Statue in particular, they're awesome in the current meta game. So Flunderies would definitely be quite a decent choice moving forward. So another deck that I wasn't sure is going to be that good, and I'm not saying it's one of the best ones, but it needs to be pointed out that Tri-Brigade as an archetype was never hit, and the actual deck I'm talking about is Bird Up. So the combination of Lyrilusc Tri-Brigade, because at the end of the day we all know that Simorgh got hit and Starling went to 1. However, if you still mash these two archetypes together and create a good build, I'm sure you can do a lot. And basically it really comes down to your deck building and your personal meta, because you can play Lunalight with Tri-Brigade, you can play Birds with Tri-Brigade, you can play a small bird package with only the Bird Call and then the Warbler and the Sparrow. You can play a bigger bird count, you can play DPE, and these are just a couple options, and it's really a deck that you maybe have lying around. It's very budget friendly when it comes to the new supports, so the Robin, the Bird Call, all of these things, and just all around it's still a good choice because you can pick it up, it's cheap, doesn't run Brave, has a lot of space for tech cards, and if you really just focus on making the best build possible, I'm sure you can do very well with the deck. And the last one to mention is going to actually be Sword Soul. I realize most of the people sort of just moved to anything based, to just so that like the hardcore just 10-ye oriented based things, and just these pile decks are just, they're everywhere, and they're including just a bunch of things and archetypes, but mostly they are based on Brave. And of course we're talking about decks that do not run Brave. And if you just look at the, I guess, old school, you could put it, Sword Soul, just basic Sword Soul, 10-ye, Blackout, Chi-Shao, Hand Traps, that's it. That's still a good deck to run, because at the end of the day, Sword Soul was never bad, and Protoss was the actual problem. So when it comes to the deck, if you strip away everything else, it's still an incredibly cool and good deck you can pick up. And I realize, for the most part, I've been saying I don't like it. I still don't really like it. However, it's a good choice, and I'm not saying it's bad. And also, of course, it doesn't run Brave. So it's also a good choice to pick up. And that's pretty much going to be it. If you did enjoy this kind of, I guess, format of video where I just pinpoint all of these decks, point out the monsters and what the deck does, the advantages that it has. Yeah, if you like it, just let me know, and let me know if you want me to do more. And let me know what you think about. Overall, I want to know what you think about the meta when it comes to just this huge inclusion of adventure in different decks, and if you're going to be playing Brave or if you're going to be playing a deck that doesn't necessarily run it. So yeah, that's pretty much it. If you enjoyed, of course, as always, make sure to give the video a like, give me a sub, check out the social media, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace!